You're listening to the In This League Fantasy Podcast Network at inthisleague.com. Download, lock in, and puck up. Hockey is here, and we've got the #1 podcast for fantasy hockey. It's the Roto Hockey Show with your hosts, Tony Healey and Brian Matthews.
And boom goes the dynamite.
Hello and welcome to the Roto Hockey Show. I'm Tony Healey here with Brian Matthews, ready to talk a little fantasy hockey. Episode 122, Week 21, Fantasy Hockey Quarterfinals. That means semifinals are up next. Brian, are you going to be going to any semis?
No.
Do you have a semi, Brian?
No, I don't. I don't have a semi or a full. I've got nothing. I have got nothing. I missed the playoffs by one spot in one league, skunked in another, and then I'm probably not going to survive this week's matchup. So not a good year for my fantasy teams, I have to admit. I've said that all year, that I was like struggling on like as a bubble team, and down the stretch my like injuries didn't help, but hey, what are you going to do? Sometimes
it happens.
Sometimes the bar eats you.
I'm up 8-2 right now in the keeper league, and I'm down 5-4 in the standard league for our listener leagues. And then I do another league with guys that I know from Montreal Hockey Talk, and Rev happens to be one of our loyal listeners. Rev happens to be in that league, and I'm facing him in the first round of the playoffs.
Oh, nice.
And I'm currently up 8-2 in that league. So not saying, just saying.
Yeah.
Although our ITL Dynasty League, I'm down 9-2, and it doesn't look good. So I'm just going to forget about that.
Yeah, that team of mine died in that league. So
yeah, I haven't done nearly enough moves in that league to get my team where it needs to be because changing the dynasty rules.
Goaltending killed me in that league. I thought I was set going into the year with Jonathan Quick, Cam Talbot, and Scott Darling.
Listen, pal, I in one league have Yaroslav Halak, Carey Price, and Cam Talbot, which is now turned into Halak, Darcy Kemper, and Cam Talbot. So life is not good.
Exactly. So, well, hopefully the folks out there in listener land, you're faring significantly better than we are in your leagues. And judging by some of the questions we've gotten on Twitter, folks asking about who to add drop for matchups, it seems like y'all are doing well. So stick tap to everybody out there, and best of luck to you. Glad that you tuned in for another Roto Hockey Show, and hopefully we can impart some additional advice to help you through the next week's matchup, or help you win this week's with Sunday Streamer. So those are coming up.
Yeah, I cannot wait. All right, folks, if you're listening to the podcast, you likely found us on iTunes, SoundCloud, or through our partners, the In This League Fantasy Podcast Network, where they have the 99 player debates for fantasy baseball that they're pushing big right now. Go check out their baseball podcast.
Yeah, it's only $6.
It's worth it. It's definitely worth it. There is a plethora of information.
Would you say I had a plethora of piñatas?
Plethora? Yes, Hefe.
Yes.
Okay.
$6 or $6.99, $7, whatever it is. Although if it's
definitely worth
$6.99, do you do this when you're in a store and you see something like $19.99 rather than saying it's $20? You're like, oh, it's only $19. Do you fall victim to that marketing ploy? I do.
No, I always roll with 20. I always round up.
I don't. I automatically just look at that first number and I'm like, it's only $19. Come on. I don't know.
That makes so much sense knowing you now.
Sure, I'll buy that. Why not?
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Finish your disclaimer.
So, yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, the In This League Fantasy Podcast Network. Go check out Bogman and Welsh. They're doing great things over there. Tons of information. They've actually got fantasy football draft stuff coming. They're on fire.
Yeah, baseball obviously huge right now. You've got just regular season NBA stuff, and football. You've got obviously the combine and free agency. There's already been a few trades here and there, and then you've got the draft coming up in a month. So crazy. I mean, and within 3 weeks, you're going to have baseball starting. Hockey will be done. Basketball will be heading into the playoffs, and then football draft. So, yeah, it's a crazy time. You think there's downtime for fantasy sports, and there really isn't.
Never.
And especially with daily. So, good stuff.
Yes. if you didn't find us on the ITL page, you probably saw us on the Grandstand Sports Network. Definitely check that network out. It is growing every day. Tons of new podcasts.
Good stuff.
Just pumping out stuff everywhere. And since you found us and you're listening to us, hopefully you subscribe to our podcast on the iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, or whatever podcast app you use. And don't forget, folks, once you subscribe and you like us, review us. We love to receive the feedback, and we're happy to mention you on the show. And I think, Brian, probably after championship week, we'll do
we've had a few new patrons sign up in the past week, so we appreciate those folks who are still reaching out to us and joining up. It's been, you look at the season going through, and yet you have guys coming through at like kind of end of the year going into the playoffs, and they're like, oh, let me sign up to get access to the playoff matrix or additional stuff that we've done. So we appreciate it from Josh. He was one of the most recent ones, and Inad was one of the most recent ones, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. So thanks to those guys. And folks, don't forget, before we get into the podcast here, we appreciate that support, but also make sure you're following us on the Draft app. We've been putting a lot of stuff on there, a lot of contests. So as we head toward the end of the season, the folks who are not in the fantasy hockey playoffs, you can still enjoy doing some daily stuff. And the Draft app is a lot of fun, as our listeners can attest. And did you know that your chances of winning on Draft are 80% better than on other salary cap sites? That's why you need to try Draft today. No more getting crushed by the pros. More than 1 million people have already downloaded Draft. You can play in real live NHL drafts right now, be done in under 5 minutes, and get paid out the next day. Drafts are filling every second, so you can join one whenever you want. All new players to the Draft app get a free entry into a real money draft when they make their first deposit, but you've got to use the promo code NHLRoto. That's right. Play in a real live money draft for free just by using the promo code NHLRoto. But it gets better. Draft is so sure that you'll love it that they're even offering Roto Hockey Show listeners a money-back guarantee of up to $100. Just search Draft in your app store or go to draft.com and come play free right now with the promo code NHLRoto.
Yes, definitely do that. I am loving it. I'm doing these tournaments. They're so much fun. But not just the Draft app, folks. If you become a patron, you get access to our GroupMe page, and that page is on fire. Our room is just killing it right now. Tons of questions flying back and forth between all our patrons and us, and it's just another way to interact with us, and it's a blast. So sign up for Patreon. It doesn't matter what level, you get access to the GroupMe app, and we'll throw you in there, and believe me, you're going to have a lot of fun. We filled a league for somebody with a couple of guys that are local to the Michigan area, the Detroit area, and they're meeting for a live draft. So how cool is that?
Yeah, a couple clicks of the smartphone, a couple clicks of the touch screen, done.
Yeah, done.
Draft league filled. So yeah, good community out there. And again, between our FanDuel contest and then the Draft app that we've been doing, it's been a lot of fun. And folks, don't think that this is crazy. It's for a couple bucks, and no one's looking to like take each other's wallets. It's more just, again, a fun like weeknight or weekend little contest just to keep us on our toes when it comes to fantasy hockey. And it's nice to have some skin in the game on some random games. Again, when you're like me and your teams have faded out of the fantasy hockey playoffs, you're a fan of the Sabres and don't even watch their games because they're so dreadful. You need something to entertain yourself when it comes to hockey. So that's what I rely on.
Yeah, it's not like the Canadians have been much better this year.
That's true. All right. Enough about the I was just going to say enough about the woe is us, but we got to get to the depressing part of the podcast. And unfortunately, this week it is chock full. I tweeted something out the other day that these injuries during the fantasy hockey playoffs are getting ridiculous.
Ridiculous is not even the word for it. Insane. It's just absolutely crushing teams left and right. Yeah. So, all right, without further ado, let's talk injury news. First up, goaltender Antti Ranta in Phoenix. He's day-to-day with a lower body injury. So, Brian, does Darcy Kemper leave you with warm, fuzzy feelings? Are you willing to play him if you need goalie starts?
I mean, I think he was, sure, because, I mean, it's the playoffs and goalie starts are goalie starts, right? You got to hope that they play the Vancouvers of the world twice this week, I believe. And there are obviously teams out there that they're going to get a matchup and could potentially win. But listen, they're in last in the NHL. They and Buffalo are vying for that coveted spot atop the draft.
I can't even think of Vancouver right now. It's just,
I know. Those
all right.
Anyway, but yes, I mean, he's shown some flashes, but I think the reason he's had success is because of the teams he's been on. Like previously, his stints in Minnesota, but then this year in LA, and that's more a testament to the team rather than his individual skill. So I think you're going to see a drop off between what he was able to do filling in for Jonathan Quick and what he's going to be able to do filling in for Ranta in Arizona. But you know what? Again, you need saves. You need to hope you hit your minimum goalie starts. You have to trot these guys out there.
Absolutely. Moving on to the Boston Bruins, the NHL has handed down a suspension to David Backes for 3 games. He had a late hit on Franz Nielsen, and it looked like his shoulder clipped Nielsen's jaw. That stinks because David Backes has been playing well. Much better.
Yeah.
So this hurts. And Boston had a good schedule this week. So, I mean, Backes was owned, I want to say, 40, 80%?
Yeah, so no, in
not
the 40s. I was actually looking at Boston today for our Sunday streamer segment, and that's where he's at. So,
yeah, so it's one of those things. It stinks for people that picked him up. If you can hold on to him, I would. But if you need a roster spot and you need to win, it's drop city for me.
Yeah, no, I think it's time to drop him. But I will get to this. What this means for a couple guys on the Bruins moving forward.
Yes. Okay, Charlie McAvoy. Come on, Boston, you're killing me. Sprained left MCL. Oh, yeah. He'll be reevaluated. That's in one of those. 4 weeks.
The second you saw it, it was like Evander Kane 2 years ago.
It was gross.
The second you get hit, I mean, I've had it. You like outside force, it impacts the inside knee, and that's your MCL. And the second you get popped like that against the boards, it's like the boards aren't going to move. It's your knee that takes the brunt.
Torrey Krug, 2 goals, 2 assists last night. He's been putting shots on goal like crazy. And
actually scoring. So Krug's been on fire. He's either the number 1 or number 2 ranked defenseman in the past 2 weeks.
Next up with the Calgary Flames, you have Mike Smith. Everybody thought he was going to be back pretty soon because he had joined the team on Tuesday for practice. Well, still not playing. Did not play tonight against the Buffalo Sabres. It's one of those wait and sees. I mean, there's really not much else you can do. So it stinks for his owners, but you can't cut bait on him now because hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later. But I know that he said, he was quoted in an article that he is very frustrated about his injury. And so are his fantasy owners.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to another goaltender injury with the Columbus Blue Jackets. Well, not really an injury. Sergei Bobrovsky is sick, and he did not play on Tuesday. One of those situations to monitor. Don't just plug and play. You have to make sure that he's in the lineup. It stinks for his owners. It stinks during the playoffs. But this stupid sickness, whether it be a flu, a head cold, or whatever the heck it is crushing not only your fantasy podcast hosts, but also your fantasy hockey players.
Yes.
Ben Bishop. Let's continue with the goaltenders. Ben Bishop in Dallas.
Yeah.
They're hoping tomorrow. We're recording this on Wednesday, the 7th. They're hoping on Thursday, the 8th. They may have a better update, but he left the game against Ottawa after the first period, and he's been ruled out for Dallas's next 2 games. So I know we're going to talk about this later in the episode with our ads, but this hurts big time for Dallas, who was on a little bit of a roll. So, oh well. Again, I don't think he's IR'd. He's considered day-to-day. So you're going to have to just, again, wait and see. You can't afford to drop Ben Bishop this late in the year, even if you need starts, right? I mean,
no, you probably
really had to.
I mean, if you've got the IR plus spot, you can just toss him in there and see what's available. Again, there's going to be a number of backups available. Just look at spot starts, teams playing back-to-backs. If you can get Lettinen, he's someone that I'm definitely adding. If he's available, I have a feeling, and I'll talk about it later in ad drops, but if he's out there, then you need to grab him.
Yeah. All right. Colorado Avalanche, defenseman Eric Johnson, upper body. It looks like he could be weeks away from a return. And people are like, Eric Johnson, well, go look at his hits and blocks, folks. And he gets a fair amount of points. He is fantasy. He's Alex Edler light with more goals.
Yeah. No, and we've obviously banged the drum about him earlier in the year and nicked up here and there. But, yeah, unfortunately, those are the types of guys that, as your fourth, fifth defenseman, can help you win because they're just kind of subtly good in these other categories, and you can kind of pick them up. Thankfully, there are times when you can go out and find some guys to fill that void. I have a couple that we can mention in Sunday streamers, in particular, one player that I really like for Sunday, but also moving forward in the next couple weeks in the playoffs.
All right, that brings us to my Montreal Canadiens, Max Pacioretty, our captain. Oh, captain, my captain, expected to miss 4 to 6 weeks with a knee injury. Now, I don't think the team's going to say this, but when you watch the Canadiens play in Pacioretty this season, I have a feeling that this was something that might have been kind of there for a little while in the season, and then the other night when he injured it, that was kind of it. They're going nowhere fast, so full tank mode. I think that he's done for the year. Welcome to Dropsville, Max Pacioretty, if you hadn't already. All right, defenseman Roman Josi, upper body, did not participate in Tuesday's morning skate, and he's missed the last 2 games due to an upper body injury. Doesn't look like he's going to play against Dallas. He did not play against Dallas, excuse me. So another situation you have to monitor. This is terrible. I mean, these are big name guys. I mean, Bishop, Bobrovsky, Josi, Pacioretty. I mean, these are not like, your 7th, 8th round. Are they going to hit? These are your 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th round picks. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Pavel Zacha, who's actually looked pretty good lately. Upper body injury on Tuesday night against the Canadiens. He didn't take a shift in the 3rd period. Was not on the ice for today's practice, and they're going to reevaluate him on Thursday. So consider him day-to-day. Spot start guy, definitely useful, but now you're just going to have to – I'm dropping him and picking somebody else up that's definitely going to play if I can. New York Rangers center, number 1 center, Mika Zibanejad, did not play Tuesday because of the flu. Peter Holland was in the lineup. Let's monitor this situation. I mean, he's got 34 points in 57 games, so he's doing okay. He's got 19 goals. It's one of those things that it sucks. I mean, it just sucks when they get the flu. And this, like I said, this illness is going around everywhere. One little piece of good news before we ruin the rest of your weekend. Austin Matthews' shoulder. He did not play. He's not going to play Saturday. It doesn't look like against the Penguins. He's already missed 5 games because of his shoulder injury, but he did skate today and he participated in part of practice in a non-contact jersey. So that's big news. That's big news for his owners and the Leafs, and it could not come at a better time. So even if he doesn't play the rest of this week, hopefully we can get him back for next week. Now let's ruin your weekend. Brock Besser back out of action 4 to 6 weeks. Do they bring him back?
No. Why? If there was, stretchered out of the arena, taken to a hospital for examination, you're out of it. This is like your prized rookie prospect. No, you just shut him down. You're talking 14 games left on the season. What's the point of bringing him back at the end? There's none.
Yeah, I just the Vancouver Canucks on Twitter. This is their update. Besser was diagnosed with a soft tissue injury and a small, non-structural, non-displaced fracture of the transverse process in his lower back. Transverse process. Okay. Anybody? I need a doctor. Is there a doctor in the house?
No, is that as bad as a pubic plate?
Oh, yeah, I deserve that. All right. The Vegas Golden Knights, Riley Smith, who has been fantastic, undisclosed. He was hurt in Tuesday's game against Columbus. Day-to-day right now, I don't know what's going to happen, but that is a big blow. 60 points in 66 games played, 22 goals, 38 assists on the season, 14 power play points. I mean, come on, 162 shots on goal. He's having the best season he's ever had, and it's not close. And it sucks for his owners and the Vegas Knights. Oh, man. Another Vegas Knights injury, James Neal, did not play on Sunday, and he was not on the flight to New Jersey. Third straight game. He's considered day-to-day for now. Another Vegas Golden Knight that was having a pretty decent year. 24 goals, 16 assists in 59 games. It stinks. That Vegas Golden Knights team has got a ton of injuries, but they keep winning, so it must be something in the water. Now the big one, Mark Scheifele. They're expected to know more about his upper body injury tomorrow. Yeah, but they think it's a shoulder.
Yeah, comes off injury, right back to being hurt again. And, I mean, obviously, like a second, third round pick at this time, it's like, wow, I got him back. It's huge uplift as you head into the playoffs,
and he was playing well too.
The whole team has been playing well. I mean,
Paul Maurice did say today that he does not believe that it is related to his last shoulder injury. So hopefully he's, I'm sure he's just relaying information that he has, because Paul Maurice isn't one of those. He doesn't seem to be one of those guys that hides things. Yeah. He's pretty straightforward. So hopefully things will get better for him, and we'll know more tomorrow. Yeah. So that's it for your injury news, folks. I'm sorry. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we have to get you ready and prepared for their replacements, and we got to let you know what's going on.
Yeah.
All right. Injury news is over. Let's get these people that are in the playoffs the big W so they can move on to the semifinals with some Sunday streamers. All right, Brian, this Sunday slate, not a great slate. It's not real big. Only 4 games.
Yes, 4 games. 4 games.
All right. What do we got for games?
I mean, there's only 4, but I think there is some fantasy goodness if you dig into these games. So we've got Boston at Chicago. They're playing an old-fashioned back-to-back home-and-home game Saturday, Sunday. I mean, original 6 teams. I love it. You rarely see this anymore. So going with the home-and-home for the Bees and the Blackhawks. Then you've got the Brooklyn Islanders are in Calgary. Dallas is going to be in Pittsburgh, and then Vancouver will be playing Arizona. So the second time in 4 nights that those 2 teams play. So those are the 4 games. That's it. That's what we got. That's what we got to work with. I mean, if you're on the ropes in your fantasy matchups or you're trying to hold off the opposition, these are going to be 4 very important games for you. So pay attention.
All right, Brian, you need points.
Yes.
Goals and assists this weekend on Sunday. Yeah. Who are you looking to add? Who's your guy? This was actually
really easy for me this week, Tone. There are weeks where I think looking at points is difficult. It's more easy to predict the hits and blocks, as you know, than it is to pick who might get some points. I mean, you can kind of go with offense and look at shots on goal and look at kind of home road splits, those types of things. But this week, I think it was an easy call for me, and that's Riley Nash of the Boston Bruins. And with the Backus injury or suspension, the Backus suspension, it makes this even better of a pickup. In fact, don't wait till Sunday to grab Riley Nash. Grab him now for the weekend, because since Patrice Bergeron was hurt, Riley Nash elevated to centering the first line. 2 goals, 4 assists since that time. And now with Backes out, I have a feeling Riley Nash is going to be bumped up to center the first power play unit. So you're getting a double dose of Riley Nash being exposed to the best players on the Bruins. And again, he has done very well in the past week and a half with 6 points, skating alongside those guys. Assisted on Marchand's overtime winner the other night, has put in a couple himself. So and again, I like the matchup against the Blackhawks, who this year obviously not the best of teams this year. So I think the fact that the Bruins are rolling in a better team, and Nash has been playing well. So, and I think again, the Backes suspension opens up even more opportunity for him heading into Sunday. So these next 3 games for the Bruins, Nash, I think, is a must own for fantasy teams.
100% with you there. I love Riley Nash. I think I talked about him last week as an ad for this week.
You most certainly did.
Hopefully people picked him up if they needed him, but if not, definitely get him for the weekend games. I did not have quite as easy as a time as you did, but Michael Furland of the Calgary Flames, only 21% owned. Yeah. He's just returning from an injury, but he's back on the top line with Sean Monahan and Johnny Gaudreau. And I'm hoping before Sunday rolls around, he ends up on a power play unit. Not only does he have 20 goals already, but he's also averaging more than 2 hits per game. So he's going to do a little bit more than just score for your team. So I love Michael Furland here.
No, he's definitely been a solid player. He had an assist tonight against the Sabres in a 5-1 victory there. So
of course the Sabres had to score.
They did. They scored with seconds left. I know. We talked off air about that. I'm sorry to tell you that. They legit scored with, I want to say, less than 2 minutes to play, maybe even less than a minute to play. Yeah, well, no shout out for Rittich, which I talked about Rittich last week, adding him for this exact purpose, that they get Buffalo and Ottawa this week. So you get a nice big W out of Rittich.
Now, I need everybody listening to hope Vancouver scored last night, because you're listening to this the day after.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So, all right. Yeah. So Michael Furland on that top line in Calgary, I like a lot.
Yep.
All right. Penalty minutes.
Yes.
This is a pretty easy one, I think, for both of us here.
Yeah. You look at some of the teams playing this weekend, and I just talked about it. What brings out the ire in hockey players more than familiarity, right? And you get the home and home game between 2 teams like the Blackhawks and the Bruins, especially the Bruins. And I think it just opens the door for some additional physicality and the potential for ill will, especially on the second half of that home and home. And who better than to be the guy than Tommy Wingels, who's going against his former mates who he spent the majority of the year with. So the Blackhawks trade Wingels to the Bruins. Now he's coming back to face them 2 straight games. Something tells me, I know that Wingels has been scratched a couple of times since he's been on the Bruins, but I just like his chance of playing in both of these games. Oh, yeah. Especially with the Backes suspension. I think that he's the guy that draws in. That's why they got him. I mean, you've got Heinen has been in and out of the lineup. Gianta, since they added him, has been in and out of the lineup. Wingels has been in and out of the lineup. But again, the Backes injury creates kind of a ripple effect for additional players. So I think Wingels definitely is going to be in. And listen, Boston, 7th most penalty minutes per game in the NHL. Chicago, the 7th most opponent penalty minutes against per game. So Chicago, a lot of people taking penalties against them, and the Bruins taking a lot of penalties. So it sounds like a nice recipe for success on the PIMS front.
I like it. I went pretty chalk here. Anton Rousel of the Dallas Stars, 4% owned. He has 120 penalty minutes on the season. He always seems to get under his opponent's skin. We all know Malkin gets ornery when he plays against guys like Rousel. So I'm going to go chalk. Yeah, people should go chalk.
That's a solid pick. And we said that last week about going chalk at the playoff time. If these guys are available, and again, Wingels 1%, Rousel 4%, easy pickups for you. And when you have guys like Malkin, Hornquist, I feel like Letang is easily like agitated. And then you've got, hell, Crosby is too. So go down the line and now get to some of the other defensemen there in Pittsburgh. And I think Razzle is going to be in their face all game for that exact purpose. So,
okay.
It's a road game. You got to get them like off their game.
And Dallas doesn't have Ben Bishop. So,
right.
All right. Moving on to the hits category, and you took my guy. So
sorry, but this I mentioned this before, but I think this guy needs to be owned right now for folks who are in the playoffs. And again, listed as a Sunday streamer, please go pick him up now. I mean, obviously, it's going to depend on your top 4 defensemen and who has games Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But I think for Sunday, it's easy to have this guy in your lineup. And moving forward, because of Dallas's schedule, it's easy to have this guy in your lineup. But Steven Johns, 11% owned. In the past week, Tony, 11 hits and 14 blocks. In his past 10 games, 30 hits and 31 blocks. And in doing my research on him and looking up some of these stats, Yahoo had its little nugget there on his player profile, but he's one of just 8 players this season with 120 block shots and 120 hits. He's got 136 and 160 on the year. So
triple digits, baby.
Yeah, I mean, huge. And we've talked about guys like that in the past and how valuable they are. And Johns is just really kind of has those numbers in spades, not only throughout the season, but especially lately when it really matters for owners. And Dallas, a top 10 team in hits per game. And kind of the bonus with Johns, obviously we're talking about this as the hits category, but you're getting both with him. But Dallas, top 10 team in hits per game. Pittsburgh, second in the league in shots on goal. So expect both of those numbers to kind of continue for Johns. And again, this is someone that because of those, it's very much like Alex Edler, kind of minus the points. But he's there. He's getting 20 minutes a game, and at 11% owned, I know that you can go grab him.
I like it. All right, I am going to go with Garnet Hathaway of the Calgary Flames.
Yeah.
1% owned. Calgary is playing at home against the New York Islanders. Hathaway right now is 3rd in the league for total hits over the last 30 days. And in 3 of his last 5 games, he's had 5 hits in each of those games. We all know the Islanders have some tough guys that like to hit. You've got Cal Clutterbuck, Boychuk, who else? Anders Lee, guys that all like to throw their weight around. So look for Hathaway to be the guy that looks to match their physicality. And like I said, it wouldn't surprise me to see a few PIMs in this game either with those two teams.
Yeah,
so
no, not at all.
You can't go wrong with a guy that's getting 5 hits a game.
Nope.
He's on the 3rd line right now as well. So that helps things too, because he's getting a little bit more ice time than he normally would. It's not like he's not a power play guy at all, but the 3rd line in Calgary gets a fair amount of play. I mean, that's Sam Bennett and Mark Jankowski. So worth an ad, definitely, if you need hits.
Yeah.
That brings us to everybody's favorite category, blocks.
Yes. Well, this was an easy one for me. And looking at the same game that you just talked about, the Islanders and Flames game on Sunday, and Calgary 6th in the league in shots on goal. The New York Islanders dead last in shots on goal allowed. So pretty easy recipe for success right there. So immediately look at Islander defensemen. I'm giving you a twofer here just based on ownership. Johnny Boychuk at 13% and Ryan Pulock at 5%, both with 20-plus blocks in the past 10 games. So you look at some of their games, and it's the standard 2-3 blocks with a few 5-6 block games tossed in there for good measure. But I think, again, the Islanders having to travel west, playing a Flames team that has been hungry. They've been playing terrible. They got off the schneid against the Sabres tonight. That's kind of what they needed. Back home, where they're obviously a different team in the Saddle Dome, and that offense looks like it was clicking tonight against Buffalo. So we know what the Islanders have been. We know what their goaltending situation. We know what their defense has been like. So just expect those two guys to really face a lot of shots against. So Boychuk, Pulock, 13% and 5% owned.
I like it. I am going to somebody we've talked about this year quite a bit with the Vancouver Canucks.
Alex
Michael
Edler.
Del Zotto. What's that?
I said Alex Edler.
Yeah, no.
No, but you want to know why?
Vancouver Canucks.
Because he's finally over 25% owned.
29%. I know.
God bless it. It took my write-in campaign until almost St. Patrick's Day, but I did it. By God.
By golly, we did it. Michael Del Zotto, 11% owned of the Vancouver Canucks. He had 6 blocks on February 25th, the last time Vancouver played the Yotes. Since then, in 3 of his last 4 games, he's had 3 blocks. The guy is just a blocks machine. He gets a ton of hits. He's got 190 hits so far in the season, so he's going to help in that category as well. Mm-hmm. Vancouver on the road without Besser means we could actually see Arizona outplay them. And we're kind of getting a taste of that tonight right now. So, listen, I know it's 2 bad teams, but when you get 2 bad teams,
yeah, the result is more just kind of.
I love Del Zotto.
No, I do. I think he's underrated, and he's obviously changed his game from early in his career in New York, and has become a little more physical than maybe he had been in the past. And I think that certainly has showed up again with his time in Philly and his time in Vancouver now.
Well, right now, Arizona's out shooting Vancouver 10-5 with 2 minutes left to go in the first period. So, all right. Like I said, Arizona is going to put a lot of pucks on net against these guys.
All right, I like it. All right, Tone, on Sunday, we do have 4 teams playing back-to-back. We mentioned Boston and Chicago playing the home-and-home on Saturday, Sunday, but Pittsburgh is also on the road Saturday at Toronto, and then they come back home to face the Stars on Sunday, and then Arizona is going to be in Denver to face the Avalanche on Saturday, and then home, as you mentioned, against the Canucks. So any of these goalies, if you need to start, interest you, we've got Tristan Jarry, Anton Khudobin, Jean-Francois Berube, and Aiden Hill.
Well, looking at these goalies, Hudobin's been playing fantastic. He's your guy if you can get him. We have Tristan Jarry down as the backup, and I think he is technically the backup. DeSmith seems to be getting more games.
Yeah, Jarry started tonight against the Flyers. They got the W, but yeah, that seems, I don't know.
It's one of you know what I mean? It's one of those things where Jarry, DeSmith, it's up to you. I mean, Dallas has got a pretty potent offense. They are on the road. Pittsburgh is at home against Dallas, so I'm not opposed to starting him as my number 2, but Hudobin is by far the guy that I want.
Yeah. That's. I mean, again, even if it is on the road for that game, you wonder what game Rask is going to get and Hudobin's going to get. But I don't think I want to touch Jarry or DeSmith against the Dallas offense. I also don't want to start Berube against the Boston offense, even without Bergeron and Backes, because they seem to be continuing to play well. Whereas Hill is an intriguing option. Something tells me he might get the Colorado. Although, whoever gets that Colorado game, I don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole.
No.
I mean, geez.
Stack.
So
Saturday, DFS
you got to figure Hudobin or whoever starts for Arizona on Sunday, whether that be Kemper or Hill that's pretty easy selection there. But again, as we always mention, if those guys are owned and you absolutely need to get a goalie start or just get some saves under your belt, then all of these guys are an option.
All right, that brings us to our weekly ad drops for next week. Yep. And next week is crazy.
Yeah, critical week.
Almost, yes. So we're talking week 22. That's the semifinals of your fantasy hockey matchups. Almost half the league has 4 games. Yep. That's 15 teams. And then only Pitt and Buffalo with 2 games.
Yeah, obviously the Sabres, who gives a shit if they only have 2 games, right? But the Penguins, you're like, that's huge when you've got guys like Crosby, Malkin, Kessel, I mean, those big three who are all top 20 fantasy performers on the bench for the majority of the week. I mean, it also hurts when you've got role players or guys that are good like Letang and Hornquist. Obviously, some of the younger guys, it doesn't matter as much with like Gensel. Or
Fury.
Or Schultz or a few others. So, I mean, those are really not the problem. Really, the big issue it was with the big three, and then with Hornquist and Letang. And because Murray's hurt, it doesn't really matter that you're missing him. Again, with the Sabres, who are you going to miss out on? Eichel's already hurt, so who's left? Ristolainen, O'Reilly. Reinhardt's been playing very well lately, so him. That's really it. It doesn't matter about anybody else on that lineup right now. So obviously not hurt. So, all right, Tone. So if we're looking for a forward to add next week, where are you heading?
I'm going to go to a little sneaky ad.
This is your boy, man.
I know. It's terrible. It's terrible.
It's been, you've kind of steered clear of talking about him a lot. So it's okay.
But there's a reason to be positive here.
All right, go.
Tanner Pearson of the Los Angeles Kings is only 6% owned. He has 2 goals in his last 2 games and looks to be back to his old self again, with the band being put back together now that Jeff Carter is back. That's right, folks. That 70s line is back together. LA has 3 home games next week. They've got Vancouver, Detroit, and the Devils at home, and 1 away game at Arizona. He's now playing with Toffoli on the second unit power play as well. I'm looking for his hot streak to continue just past these 2 games, 2 goals in 2 games. He is one of those guys that scores goals in bunches. Like, I think he had a 7-game goal streak like last year or 2 years ago where he had like 12 goals in 7 games, something crazy like that. So again, he scores in bunches, but he's going to help you in the hits category. He's got 90 hits on the season so far as well. Yeah. So he's getting a little over a hit and a half a game.
No,
so
I like when guys are confident. You can see it like you said, in the past week with the number of shots on goal, the 2 goals in 2 straight games, 2 power play points in the past 2-3 weeks. So yeah, sometimes with guys like that snake bit or have been heralded young players, and then all of a sudden it doesn't really they hit a plateau. It's nice to see them get rebound because again, it comes down to playing with some confidence, and right now he's got that. So take advantage.
Jeff Carter.
Yeah, huge.
Jeff Carter.
70s line. Put them back together. Why not?
All right. What about you?
Yeah. Let's talk about 2 of our old man crushes, because you went with Tanner Pearson. So you know what? I had to go with someone that a huge fan of that. The big issue has been plagued by injuries, and then the emergence of Vincent Trocheck has bumped this guy down a little bit, but now back and playing very well, and it's none other than Nick Bjugstad of the Florida Panthers. 22% owned, and there's a part of me, Tone, that worries. He had a hat trick last night, and I fear that he may be unavailable to a lot of folks. So I do feel guilty mentioning this right now, but if he is available, please go and get him, because 5 goals, 8 assists in his past 10 games, 3 goals, 4 assists in the past week. He is skating on the top line with Barkov and Dadonov, and centering the second power play unit. Florida with 7 games upcoming in the next 2 weeks. He is a must own. Please go out and grab him immediately. If you hear this, hit pause on the podcast, switch over to your whatever app you use for whatever league you're in, Yahoo, ESPN, Fantrax, whatever it may be. Add Bjugstad, come back and listen to the rest.
CBS. Yeah. Don't forget about CBS.
Sorry, CBS. My bad, CBS Sports.
Nick Bjugstad in Florida has been so good. Since they put that line together, it's been absolutely insane. They are now talking about Barkov with the Bergeron injury for the Selke. I mean, this line is been
he's good.
Great.
He is a very underrated player.
Listen, I know. But this line, since they've been together, like you said, correlates with Bukestad's bump in production for sure.
No,
so
definitely.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right. For defense, Tone, you're going with a guy I mentioned a couple weeks ago, and his ownership has remained low, but his production has been up. So who are you going with?
Noah Hannafin, defenseman for the Carolina Hurricanes. 15% owned. He's got 8 goals, 21 assists, and 145 shots on goal this season. They've got 4 games next week. He is on the second unit power play. He's getting 20 to 22 minutes a night. He's only averaging 1 hit and block per game, but he's really shooting the puck a lot at 5-on-5.
Yeah.
Carolina's fighting for a playoff spot. They are at the Rangers. They have Boston and Philly at home, and then at the Islanders. 3 big division games next week. They're important, so I look for them to push the offense.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about in a minute that they play 2 back-to-back sets next week. So
I love that I agree with you, and I love that in the middle of this push, this kind of desperate attempt in the last 15 games of the season to make the playoffs, that they fire their GM.
Oh, yeah. No, they didn't fire him. They gave him a promotion.
A new title.
What is he? Director of Hockey Operations?
They're like, Ron Francis, stop making player personnel decisions, please.
But the new GM will report directly to the owner, bypassing the president or whatever of hockey ops.
Yeah. It's like,
I'm still confused.
Yeah, I don't. It's like whoever takes that job, it's like
promotion, demotion.
Yeah, the guy taking the job. It's like, okay, what am I doing? You're just
like we're in an
what the owner wants, essentially.
We're in an episode of Seinfeld.
Yeah,
it's George Costanza working for the Yankees.
Yeah,
poor Ron. He was such a good player. I loved him.
Yeah, well, didn't work out. I wonder. You know what? You have a player you're about to mention in a minute, and I wonder how much that had to do with his undoing.
A lot. Yeah. And I hate that I'm mentioning him, but it's besides the point. All right, defenseman Brian.
All right.
Give us your guy.
This is someone that we've mentioned recently in Sunday Streamers, and now I think because of the schedule upcoming, it's worth a potential ad for exactly the purposes that we talked about with guys like Eric Johnson hurt, the fact that Alex Edler, guys like that, Borwecki are likely owned now. Stephen Johns likely owned. I mean, obviously I would pick Stephen Johns here, but somebody else that I wanted to mention was Nikita Zadorov of the Colorado Avalanche, also 11% owned, just like Stephen Johns. But Colorado with 7 games upcoming, 4 next week, 3 after. Zadorov, 2 goals in the past week to go along with double-digit shots on goal, hits, and blocks. So, I mean, the goal's not his specialty or his forte, so those are obviously a bonus. But again, we can't say this enough about your matchups, that you need the peripheral stats. You need to grab these guys that we're mentioning. And again, if you're not going to, my big move would be to add Stephen Johns for the weekend, hang on to him moving forward. If he's unavailable, look for guys like Zadorov, look for guys like Del Zotto, like Tony mentioned, and use those to your advantage. And thankfully, some of these guys, they're all not skating on the same night. So you can have a guy for, maybe he's playing like Stephen Johns playing Sunday, and then again on like a Tuesday, and then you drop him and add somebody else, and then pick somebody else up for the weekend. So you got to really look at the playoff breakdown. And thankfully, our patrons have access, Tony, to your playoff matrix, that you've been able to break down those schedules for folks and give them kind of a jump on those weekly playoffs for each team. So obviously, that's a good thing. But yeah, Zadorov, 11% owned, definitely an ad for those of you who are going to need help at the bottom of your defensive spot and getting those peripheral stats for your team. All right, to goalie, Tony.
I can't believe I'm going to mention this guy. And he is he's owned in more leagues than he should be.
People fantasy playoff spots. He just cost his GM his job.
But if you need starts for goaltenders, beggars can't be choosers, because winners would never ride.
Oh.
Listen, Scott Darling, Carolina Hurricanes, 32% owned. There are 3 teams next week that play 2 sets of back-to-back games: Carolina, Ottawa, and Edmonton. Of the 2 sets of back-to-back games, Carolina has by far the easiest schedule. I don't trust Darling, but if you need goalie starts and you need to get to your minimum of 3, you have injuries and stuff like that you need to fill.
Yeah.
I'm okay taking a shot on him.
Okay.
They are at the Rangers. They got Boston at home, Philly at home, and then at the Islanders.
Yeah. The 2 games against the New York teams are obviously the keys there.
Yeah, because you don't want any part of Philly or Boston.
No.
So there's a very good chance that he gets Boston and the Islanders.
Yeah.
We'll see what they do, but I have a feeling that's what we're going to get. So Scott Darling, if you need starts and only if you need starts, that's where I'm headed. What about you?
We mentioned him earlier in the podcast during the injury report, but Kari Lehtinen of the Dallas Stars, 22% owned. I think you got to scoop him up quick. Bishop, again, day-to-day, they expect an update on his injury status coming up, but you've got Dallas playing Pittsburgh this Sunday. Not a road game I'm particularly interested in starring Kari Lehtinen, let's be honest. But they've got 4 games next week, and there's the likelihood that Lehtinen could get 5 starts because these are all spaced out. If Bishop's hurt, they want to potentially keep him, get him healthy, but you've got Sunday against Pittsburgh. Then you've got games Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Now, a lot of those games for the Stars are going to be on the road. And of course, I don't have it in front of me right this second. Hold.
What's that? The starts for Dallas?
Yeah, they have.
Dallas' schedule. They're at Montreal, at Toronto, at Ottawa, and at Winnipeg. Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Sunday.
Thank you, Tony. See? One of us is prepared for this podcast, and one of us isn't. I'll let the folks out there determine who that is. Thank you. Yes. So a nice schedule for those of you looking for goalie starts, in that you can kind of spread out the wealth there and grab Lehtinen. So at 22% owned, likely available. And I have a feeling most Bishop owners probably went out and grabbed him, but maybe you have a Ben Bishop owner who's not in the playoffs and there was no one running out to add Lehtinen, and you can steal yourself some starts.
I don't know what scares me more, to be honest with you. Relying on Scott Darling or Kari Lehtinen to get you into the fantasy.
Man, I mean, like you said,
you got to do what you got to do.
Desperate times call for desperate measures. And Scott Darling, the only thing worse might be having to trot out Antti Niemi out there. Although he's played well lately. It's bizarre.
Stefan Waite, the goalie whisperer for Montreal.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because earlier in the year, our friends in the fantasy hockey community, Steve Laidlaw and Chris Wassel, both mentioned how Antti Niemi was the gold standard for making money in DFS. It was just stack whoever Niemi was starting against, and whoever his opponent was going to score in bunches. So he's been obviously playing well. So, yeah, but Lehtinen, again, with 5 games between Sunday and Sunday, it's tough to ignore.
All right. Let's get to a little bit more fun topic, players to keep an eye on.
I like yours a lot.
I went between keeping an eye on this player or adding him outright. Pierre-Luc Dubois of the Columbus Blue Jackets, who's only 15% owned. Yep. Now, they only play 3 games next week, but boy, do they have a good schedule. Yeah. They're at home against Montreal on Monday, at Philly on Thursday, and then home against Ottawa on Saturday. Listen, if you have the room for him, I think he's definitely worth a stash. Yeah. He's playing on the top line with Artemi Panarin and Cam Atkinson.
Nice.
Columbus has 4 games in the championship week. They're not easy games, but he definitely could be useful there. You look at what he's been doing. He's on the second power play unit. He's got 1 goal and 3 assists in his last 2 games. He's getting upwards of 18 minutes a game some nights. He's young, but he's showing that he is a very important part of that team. And he could really heat up with this super high offensive skill that he has on his wings. I love the way he's been playing. He's been getting big time praise from John Tortorella, which does not happen with young players very often. Yeah. So if you can add him, add him. Otherwise, keep an eye on him and get ready to add him for the championship week. again, not the easiest schedule, but 4 games.
4 games are 4
with
games.
Panarin and Atkinson. Yeah.
Those are 4 games.
Definitely.
In fact, I got a question on Twitter the other day about a guy who was looking for help, but it was a points league. And so he was looking at 3 players and wanted to know which 2 to keep. And it was between Eric Haula, Jake Gensel, and Pierre-Luc Dubois. And I thought Eric Haula was an easy choice, and I laid out the rationale why. And then looking at Gensel and Dubois, they have identical stats from the beginning of February to now. And both of them currently skating on the top line. Gensel's with Crosby again. And both playing power play 2 minutes, but both increased kind of playing time for the time being. And it's kind of a flip of a coin because, again, if this were a head-to-head matchup, playoff matchup, easy choice. 4 games versus Gensel's 2 next week. But with both teams having 15 games remaining on the year, this being a points league, spread it out, it's kind of a coin flip. I lean Gensel just because he's been there and done that. Last March, he had a good run when Pittsburgh had called him up. And right heading into the playoffs there, he obviously performed very well. But to be honest, I like the situation that Dubois in Columbus too. So that's not an easy decision to make. But at 15% owned versus what Gensel's at. What's Gensel at?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. All right. Gensel is at 68.
So at 63% owned, I think that's kind of an easy choice if you're looking for someone to add because Gensel not going to be available to you, but Dubois is, and it's very similar situation, similar stats. So there's the.
Hey, I was within 5%. I feel pretty happy.
Yeah, that's a standard deviation. Yeah, that's allowed. All right, mine is a little further off the radar, Tone, and this is maybe for folks in kind of deeper pools to look at. But it's Mike Fisher of the Nashville Predators.
Mike Underwood?
Yes, Mike Underwood. I would change my name too, to be honest with you, if you know what I mean.
Hey now. Whoa, family show.
So Mike Fisher, back out of retirement. Nashville signs him. And what has the Predators been doing lately? Well, they've been healthy scratching a number. That sounds the second that left my mouth, I was like, that sounds hilarious. They've been.
I was waiting for that.
I've also been healthy scratching, but then I bought Gold Bond, and I'm better now.
Fresh balls.
Oh man! So in the past week, Kyle Turris, Craig Smith, Roman Josi, others. Have been in the press box and for no other reasons than to keep them healthy for the playoffs. Now, Fisher has slotted into the lineup. He skated on the second line with Fiala and Smith the other night because they scratched Turris. And if he's going to continue to get into the lineup and play alongside kind of top 6 forwards, then he's definitely worth an ad and may have some sneaky value, especially in championship week, Tone, when Nashville plays 4 games. So again, this is why he's a keep an eye on. If the Preds continue to do that, then you could kind of back end of your roster during championship week, look to add him on the off nights that your teams are playing and have someone on a good team with good line mates that is going to be completely unowned in all but the craziest leagues. Again, 2% owned right now.
Perfect. There you go. That's it, folks. That's it for that for ads for next week. I think we've got you set up to do some big things. Yeah. At least I hope we do. Next up, let's talk about the Beer League Talk Fantasy Producer of the Week. And is this really week? I mean, this should be like months.
Calendar year. Of 2018 so far. It's been that crazy, the production of Taylor Hall.
Oh my God. I still am in shock. It's unreal.
Yes. And 26 games played since January 2nd. That was the Devils' first game when the calendar flipped to 2018. In that time, he has had a point in each of those games. 26 game point streak, and that is 18 goals, 20 assists. And in the past week, Tone, he has had goals in 4 straight games to go along with 4 assists. So easily my Beer League Player of the Week. This is the guy that has just gone out game in and game out for 2 straight months and just played at a MVP level.
Straight up gaming.
Yeah, balling.
Gaming. Balling. No, pucking?
Yeah.
He is a pucking. He is just pucking. Pucking right along.
Indeed. Indeed he is.
Put your pucking to it.
Wow. I'm glad this is wrapping up because it's going off the rail. So getting a little punchy here at the end.
Listen, folks that don't know, I am buying a house, so the bunker is going to be new very soon.
No, that's exciting. I mean, we're wrapping the season up, but you're going to have a new recording studio.
Oh, it's going to be crazy
awesome.
too. I've got soundproof already.
Nice. That's what I'm going to get you as a housewarming gift. I'm going to get you some of those like soundproof panels from Home Depot. They come in packages of like 4. I'll buy 2 of them for you.
I'm so excited to have my own quiet room.
Panic room. It'd be nice. You know what?
The kids start getting crazy. Shut the door.
I'll ask you the question. Do you want as a housewarming gift the soundproof panels, or do you want a mini fridge for the bunker?
Oh, that's not fair.
Sure it is. And they're both self-serving. I mean, don't tell your wife, but I mean, you're getting housewarming gifts that really are only for you.
We should probably go with the soundproofing because I'm going to get a kegerator.
There you go. All right, fair. All right, you do the kegerator, and I'll do the soundproofing for you. There.
I was asking my wife. I thought maybe we could run a funnel from the upstairs fridge looping down the stairs right to the bunker.
You just like have a tap like on the wall.
Dear, I need you to pour me a funnel.
I like it.
It's been a rough week.
That's okay. Although you got to be careful. You never know what's going to come down.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I've been there before.
You can think that it's one thing and it'd be something else. So, no, go with the kegerator. You can keep an eye on it. Take the handle off when you're not home so the kids don't get into it.
You know, it's been so long since I bought a keg. I still wonder if Nut Brown Ale is the cheapest keg you can get.
Oh, it's got to be like Busch Light or Natty.
No, that was more expensive when we were in college.
Really? Oh, it was
honey nut brown ale.
So
50.
gross.
What was it, like 40 something for a half keg?
I don't know. Let's look.
$45, $50. I wonder.
What are you going to put in? Like a pony keg, quarter keg?
No, it was a half keg.
No, I'm asking you. Well, let's see.
Me?
Yeah, in your house. I'm not talking about 78 years ago.
78 years.
No, I'm curious.
Yeah, I probably would err on the side of pony kegs. I feel like a half keg could get dangerous.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're down there and it's like, whoa. All right, let's look.
Wait a minute.
So you've got the half barrel is the traditional like giant keg. The half keg is really a quarter keg. And then you've got the pony. So let's look. Let's see what these folks have for prices. Hold.
While you're doing that, let me get these
go ahead. I'm
curious
what it's going to cost you.
All right, folks. If you enjoy the show, please rate and review us on iTunes and send your beer keg choices.
You can get cider in kegs now, Tone.
Oh, that's disgusting.
Yeah, that is.
No, that's like a one and done.
That's what this website is recommending. Go ahead, continue.
All right, folks. Please rate and review us on iTunes or wherever you listen to us. And remember, you can find all of our shows and all of the great other ITL fantasy podcasts on the ITL homepage, inthisleague.com. And don't forget to check out the Grandstand Sports Network. You can find our partners online at www.grandstandsports.com and on Twitter at grandstand_SN. You can support our podcast by becoming a patron of the show. Visit our page to see all the great extra benefits we give to our generous donors. That's patreon.com/Roto Hockey Show. Depending on your level of support, this could include extra content and interaction with us, bonus podcasts, and exclusive Roto Hockey Show swag. And don't forget, folks, like those bonus podcasts rolling through the summer, I am hoping to get a draft podcast out before the draft, and then we'll do a wrap up a little after. So I want to, a week or two before the draft, I'm working on getting some guests to come on and tell us about the smooth young boys that Brian likes to follow online.
Wow. I'm sitting here looking up keg prices for you, and that's what I get.
You know what? Sometimes, Brian, you got to take your shots when they present themselves.
All right. Well, just so you know, Keystone Light was the cheapest one that I saw just now.
Yes. Bitter beer face.
Yes, that is crazy. All right, folks, as your playoffs continue, if you need help on the Twitter, feel free to reach out. We've had a few folks either DM us or just hit us up on the reg. At Roto Hockey Show, you can find Tony at T_LOC11. You can find me at NHL Roto. You want to shoot us a long-winded email, feel free. NHLRotoTony@gmail.com, NHLRotoBrian@gmail.com. All right, folks.
I can't believe you mentioned Keystone Light. That's fantastic.
You're welcome.
I gotta tell the story.
Right.
This is nowhere near Mexico, but
this is good. I'm about to wrap up, but I like a good beer story at the end of the show, so go for it.
So, Keystone Light, here we are. We had to be, I don't know, sometime in high school. I want to say sophomore, junior year of high school. We're so excited. We were able to finagle one of our older friends to get us a keg. We get the keg of Keystone Ice. We're doing keg stands, just cranking things out. I was so excited. I had set the record for the night at like 37 seconds, something crazy like that. People were in awe. It was crazy. I didn't think I'd done anything special, but I'm so excited. We had one of our friends that used to play football, who had graduated a couple years before. He came back and he was drinking with us, and he's like, "You guys are drinking right out of the keg. That's not impressive. Can you drink a cup of beer faster than me?" And he was one of those weird guys that could just like pour it down his throat. But again, he's an offensive lineman. We're like, well, if you could do that with a beer in a cup, how long can you do a keg stand? He's like, I don't know. Let's do it. It took 8 of us to get him up on the keg. He got about 3 seconds into the keg stand, and his arms gave way. And where do you think his face went?
Oh,
yeah. Face first onto the keg, right? And
did he ruin the keg
just like, oh my. He dented the top of it, actually.
Nice. That's impressive. That's a big boy.
He's laying there on the floor, and we're all standing like, oh my God, do we need to call the paramedics? Because he's not moving, and his nose just exploded. There was blood everywhere all over this camp floor.
Right there.
And we're like, it felt like minutes went by. It was probably, I don't know, a couple of seconds. And he kind of opens his eyes and he looks at us. He's like, who the hell dropped me? We're like, you dropped yourself, man. And he's like, why am I bleeding? Because your face hit the keg. Look. And he stands up and he goes, well, F it. And he grabbed 2 cups that were sitting on the thing and he pounded them.
Nice.
And we're like, what the heck? Well, he pounded them, except one was full of beer and one was full of cigarette butts.
Oh.
He proceeded to vomit everywhere and then pass out, so we had to call the
That
paramedics.
is one way to end a podcast right there, folks.
It was quite a night. But yes, Keystone Ice will always live in my heart.
Oh, there you go. All right. Well, I won't.
And
that will not be my housewarming gift for you. So, all right. May the folks out there in podcast land have better luck than Tony's high school acquaintance.
Yeah, please.
Broke his face on a keg and then drank cigarette butts.
It was awesome.
Fun times. All right. Good luck this week, folks. And hopefully you're tuning in next week and you're heading to the championship or just continuing in the playoffs or wrapping up your points leagues and trying to win. So, again, best of luck. Look out for some daily contests on the draft app as well as FanDuel coming up this weekend and in the next week. We'll talk to you later.